Chris Chivers stands alone as one of the finest investigative journalists of our time. He worked his way into this field after serving as a Marine in the U.S., serving as a captain in the U.S. Marines. He developed, as a result of his military experience, he developed a unique form of journalism, which consisted of following the guns and the ammo in the world's most dangerous places, winning Pulitzers and OPC awards in the process. He continued to defy the odds until he decided that his family, he has 5 children, just couldn't take it anymore. Today, he writes long-form narrative for the New York Times and the Sunday magazine. He also mentors younger journalists to help them get through the tough stories and stay safe in so doing. Ladies and gentlemen, here is C.J. Chivers.
I'm old enough I can show up with prepared marks written by hand on loose-leaf paper.
Speaking of the microphone.
Couple of pre-notes before I read them. I might not be the most negative person in the room, but it's probably a good bet that I'm close. So there's exits, fire exits, if you don't like what I'm about to say. Where are the scholars? Can you hold up your hand because you're who I'm going to be speaking to, and I want to make eye contact when I look up? Good. The rest of you can listen, but you're who I'm speaking to. And sort of casually first, I'd like to congratulate you, but for something different than what you're being congratulated for so far, which is luck. I mean, how do you congratulate someone for luck? But you have it because by chance at this moment you have the opportunity before you of a life of service, right? You're not going to get rich. You're probably going to struggle financially like most of us do. But you have an opportunity for a life of service. And I'm not talking about bearing witness. That's a cliche I hate. I flinch almost saying it. I'm talking about you could, and I hope you will, validate and lift the suffering of the people who are in the way and trod upon. You can expose, indict, and shame the powerful, the ignorant, and the abusive who are around us everywhere. And you can, if you're smart, smarter than me, I hope, explain the most pressing questions of modern times to your fellow citizens. Explain them with sound analysis and compassion, both rooted in fact. You are lucky if you can do this. I mean, you're really lucky. Now, I've got some prepared remarks. Somewhere in, I think, the early 1990s, while I was a young Marine infantry officer in an ecosystem of grunts, I read an article by Eric Schmidt in the New York Times. With good humor, pretty good humor, I can say that the United States Marine Corps is something akin to a globe-roaming cult, an official state-sanctioned gang. And this article was about gay Marines, about their closeted lives and who they were and how they met and communed and loved and lived their lives in a profession and in a society in which they were not just unwelcome, they were officially forbidden, and their identities were essentially criminalized. I was a creature of the Marine Corps at this time in my life. Card-carrying member in good standing, and I knew exactly 0 openly gay Marines for reasons you can all understand. It was treacherous for them to be themselves, especially around someone like me, fresh out of the hatchery. I remember Eric's story with accuracy and empathy. It was like a switch had been switched on in my own life and made me a more alert citizen of the country that I thought I served. He was telling me a made member of this particular gang human things about my own organization that as an insider I didn't even know. That's journalism. It's not just valuable for me, it was inspirational. A few years later, I was out of the Marine Corps, and you know the type, just another tattooed former looking for a job. And I was on a different path, journalism, the one that, where are you guys, the scholars, the same one you're on now? That's now a quarter century ago, give or take. And I got a few more miles along the way than I did then, some of them still intertwined with the Marine Corps and the Department of Defense, as they have, thankfully, addressed some of their deep biases and institutionalized discriminations and become officially slightly more inclusive. Have to add, not a footnote, let's put it in the speech, even as they have gone about making a mess of our country's optional, unfortunate, and mismanaged wars. In industry terms, 25 years is a pretty long time, so just as the Corps has changed, so has journalism. Journalism, its own little cult. At least we're not state-sanctioned. Many of us of the middle age have gone from taking obituaries and writing high school athlete of the week profiles for printed newspapers that no customer would see before the next day's dawn to flashing news alerts about incoherent national leader tweets and then watching internet click meters to tell us how we're doing. It's not that complicated, or it's not that uncomplicated. And this isn't just a Luddite's lament. Some of the changes have been good in these 25 years, but I think more are bad, and that we now exist in a market and a self-imposed and self-serving mentality that rewards speed and hype over actually knowing your shit and getting it right. The gray and nuance that are baked-in features of real beat knowledge are too often being replaced in too many chairs by simplicity, neon simplicity, and attention-seeking nonsense, including in some of our most important beats, national government and terrorism, where partisan politics to me and jihadism to me kind of look like weird reflections of our industry's own most craven traits. Now I'm going to brighten my speech for a moment. No one went for the exits? You're still invited. These problems aren't universal. That's why a lot of you are in the room here right now. All right? You believe in better things. Great work surfaces every week. Good work every day. It persists. Every year we see stories that will stand for decades. Rigorously researched, ethically pursued, carefully written, laid down like a sturdy church, library, or mosque, rich with information and built to code. I get your attention for like these 10 minutes, so I'll say this to the scholars as you begin your own phase, next phase of your career. Find and carry a good compass. Don't be guided by this culture of clicks. Don't invest any time or of your bandwidth in hype. Be humble, really humble. Stick to basics. The biggest and best stories are just someone who is brilliant at the basics repeatedly across a reporting project. And remember that very little that's good rises from weak roots. I'm not the first person to say any of this. I don't take any credit for it. If I dared, I'd frame it in a way that would ask you to consider it to be spiritual advice. But since you're human, that would just encourage you to ignore it. So let's go back to my example, to Eric Schmidt. And those two words I used earlier, accuracy and empathy, let's highlight those and hold them. If you're taking notes, those are the two words to write down. Be like Eric was 30 years ago when he stood outside the gates of Camp Lejeune. Bring your commitment to accuracy and your empathy and your humility, and calmly show your readers, whether they be wretches like most of us or the corrupted powerful, to show the world as it actually is. Channel facts and help spread an awareness that over time, like what happened for gay Marines in the Marine Corps, that led an ossified institution to rethink the things it had wrong and to make at least a few human lives a little bit better. So to the scholars, where are you? Your hands again? Can I see them? Because I want to make eye contact. Who am I missing? There you go. All right. So to the scholars, I'd say, congratulations, and not just on luck. And congratulations to the OPC for giving you the boost you're getting today. People need it. I'm glad you're getting one. We're glad you're here. It's easy from here. Just go do well. That's it.
Thank you. See you next year.